If you only know one thing about Buddhism, we bet that it's something to do with today's topic. This smiling Tibetan monk, better known as the Dalai Lama.
So I tell them I'm a pro, Jack. And who do you think they give me? The Dalai Lama himself.
Welcome to WatchMojo's Top 5 Facts. Prepare to be enlightened as we count down 5 facts on the life, works, and quirks of the Dalai Lama.
The flowing robes, the grace, bald. Striking.
We're gonna try to get through this without any puns about the South American herbivore. Fingers crossed.
Not just any Buddhist, His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. He's a good friend.
Number 5. He was an unusual child, which might have landed him the job. I'm gonna go ahead and say it, the Dalai Lama was a weird kid. As a young boy, His Holiness remembers hanging out in the family's chicken coop and making clucking noises alongside the hens, as well as running up to his father and tugging on his mustache. The young boy also liked packing a bag and saying, "I'm going to Lhasa," which is the capital of Tibet. After the 13th Dalai Lama died, Buddhist monks searched across Tibet looking for the next reincarnation of the Dalai Lama as per their tradition. The monks found the odd little boy and tested him by bringing out some of the belongings of the old Dalai Lama and placing them beside objects that weren't his. And every time the young boy grabbed the Lama's things, shouting, "Mine, that's mine."
This is mine. Mine, 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 mine.
The verdict? The monks had found their reincarnated leader. Number 4, he loves science.
Yes, science!
Maybe not what you'd expect from a religious leader, given the interesting historical relationship of religion and science. As a boy, the Dalai Lama was fascinated by machines, taking apart and putting back together wind-up toys, clocks, film projectors, and anything else he could find. In one interview, he described looking through a telescope at a young age and seeing that the moon was a cratered rock orbiting the Earth and not a heavenly, light-emitting orb like his religious tutors told him. When astronomer and astrophysicist Carl Sagan asked the Dalai Lama what would happen if science disproved a core Buddhist belief, like reincarnation, the Lama replied, basically, that if science could disprove reincarnation, Tibetan Buddhism would abandon reincarnation as a doctrine. He also told Sagan that some Buddhists see Buddhism less as a religion and more as a science of the mind. Number 3, he is a self-described Marxist. The Dalai Lama has publicly described himself as half Buddhist, half Marxist? Marxism is, of course, the socialist ideology behind communism. That's right, comrade. The Dalai Lama has publicly criticized capitalism as an inhuman, profit-obsessed ideology devoid of love and compassion.
Buddhists, they don't give a shit about money. They're wrapped in sheets. They're not buying shit.
I'm not talking about Buddhists or Amish. I'm talking about normal people, working class, everyday people. Everyone wants to get rich. Am I crazy?
On the contrary, the Dalai Lama feels his values are closer to Marxism, which is concerned with fulfilling the needs of ordinary people. As a young man, His Holiness even wanted to join the Communist Party himself. There's an interesting irony that he, albeit jokingly, has called himself more left-wing than the communist Chinese government that exiled him from his homeland decades ago. Even still, the Dalai Lama rejects all violence as a political tool, and he has criticized the impersonal and often brutal dictatorships in China, Vietnam, and the Soviet Union. Number 2, he is universally beloved outside of China.
The opening prayer be offered by His Holiness, the Dalai Lama.
The Dalai Lama has polled as the most popular world leader on Earth. But his popularity is more complicated in China, which controls the Dalai Lama's homeland of Tibet. Since the Dalai Lamas have traditionally been the leaders of Tibet, the Chinese government sees him as a rival and have punished anyone they see as friendly to the Dalai Lama. Western artists who are sympathetic to the Dalai Lama have had their work banned in China. Martin Scorsese, Bjork, and most recently Lady Gaga have all faced the wrath of Beijing. The Dalai Lama may only think of himself as a monk, but for most everyone else, he is a powerful and world-famous political symbol. And until he can return to Tibet, he is also the world's most famous refugee. Number 1, the Dalai Lama might be on his last incarnation. Buddhists believe in the principle of samsara, the cycle of death and reincarnation, and the current Dalai Lama is the 14th earthly incarnation of the original Dalai Lama. Ever since the 1990s, there's been talk about his next reincarnation.
Then the circumstances is such that then is it no longer relevant, this institution.
The Chinese government have declared that they are in charge of finding his successor, and their involvement would probably mean that it would be someone who grows up to be more cooperative with Chinese rule in Tibet. But recently, His Holiness has gone a step further and said he might choose not to reincarnate at all, which would make it impossible for the government of China to claim a successor.
The Dalai Lama institution will cease one day. This man-made sort of institution will cease. No guarantee.
Besides, maybe the Dalai Lama just wants to finish on a high note. He figures that we've gone 5 centuries with the Dalai Lama, so we may as well finish off with a popular one.
A century-old tradition ceased at the time of quite popular Dalai Lama.
So, what do you think of the Dalai Lama? Do you think he'll ever see Tibet again? For more perpetually reincarnated top 10s and politically exiled top 5s, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
So I'm on a first tee with him. I give him the driver. He hauls off and whacks one. Big hitter, the Lama.